Hi everybody, and welcome to Burn Tall. I'm Tim. Thanks for being here. I always appreciate the time that you and I get to spend together, so thanks for tuning in, and I hope wherever you are that you're happy, healthy, and staying safe. On today's video, I'm going to be taking a real close look at the Nike AlphaFly Next Percent 2 after 100 miles.
You got me breathing better than ever. I'm working on it. You got me racing, trying to catch up. You're already there.
So now that I have over 100 miles on these, or if you like your distance in kilometers, that would be 165 kilometers. I want to focus today's video on the performance or the ride of the midsole, the fit and comfort of the upper, and then just the overall durability. How are these holding up? So those are the questions that we're going to try to answer today, so be sure to stick around. But before I get into it too far, I always like to demonstrate what it looks like to run in the shoes I'm about to review for you. So let's do that. But then when we come back together, I'm going to take a real close look at the AlphaFly Next Percent 2 to try to answer that question. Are these the right shoes for you? Now, I did purchase these with my own money, so you know you're getting a completely unbiased opinion. And they're the most expensive pair of running shoes that I own. They retail for $275 US. They're a neutral road shoe that I ordered true to size, and they fit me perfectly. And for me, that's a US men's size 9. Now, they're a little heavier than the previous version of the shoe. On my scales, and again, US men's size 9, they came in at 7.8 ounces or 222 grams. And for the women's version, for a US size 7.5, they came in at 7.1 ounces or 201 grams. If you're new to the channel, welcome to the Run Tall family. I'm really glad you're here and you found us on YouTube. Now, I post running shoe reviews, comparisons, and shoe battles weekly, but I also like to post a lot of other videos that are related to running as well. So if you enjoy watching running shoe reviews and other videos about running, be sure to subscribe to the channel and don't forget to click the notification bell so you'll be notified each time that I upload new content. So let's talk about the performance and the ride of the midsole. And I will say right up front that I've run some of my fastest times in these shoes already. And that's mainly because they have a ton of ZoomX foam. They got 40 millimeters in the heel. They have an 8 millimeter offset. Plus they have a lot of other tech going on too. They have a full length carbon fiber plate that runs through the middle of that ZoomX foam. And then up here in the forefoot, they have their air zoom units. And they did add to this year's version a little bit of that ZoomX foam right underneath those air units to give you a little extra protection to absorb some of that impact. And I think it does a terrific job. Now, since I posted my first review, I did have a chance to watch a few other shoe-tubers' impressions of these shoes. I know not all of them were as favorable as maybe the original version was, but I'm really enjoying these, and for a couple different reasons. You know, I'm a solid midfoot striker, and I feel like I just get a ton of energy return. It's really comfortable. And I think Nike is spot on when they talk about improving the impact protection or absorbing some of that strike as you move through your gait cycle. And I don't feel like I've lost anything from the first day that I ran in these. They're super comfortable. Still getting tons and tons of energy return. And I found that for me, the more that I'm able to land on those air units up in the forefoot, the more that I'm getting back from the shoe and the faster that I go. So for me, it is a little bit of a learning curve, just finding where my sweet spot is. Now, again, typically I naturally want to strike the ground pretty solidly on that midfoot. But again, the more time that I put in these, the more that I'm enjoying trying to get up on those air units just a little bit more, because I found that, again, I'm getting much more pop and I'm moving through my gait quicker, which is making me simply a faster runner. Now, there are some signs of wear over 100 miles, which you would expect. Now, there's some compression marks that you can see in the ZoomX midsole foam, pretty much throughout the midsole. And then as I flip them over, you can see here at the bottom, you know, especially in that groove there in the back towards the heel, that, you know, it's actually worn that, I don't know, bright green, I guess, right off, so that you can now see just the ZoomX foam there in the white with, and you can see the compression marks that are there as well. But overall, I think that the rubber that they used, actually, it's not rubber at all. It's a different type of material, according to Nike, but it's lightweight and durable, and I think that that's true. You know, they did widen up the base back here, and I noticed that too, so that also speaks to performance. I had a really easy time going through some pretty tight corners, so I appreciate having that little extra width there in the heel area. And then they've got, of course, that same type of outsole material that they have the strips here in the back from the forefoot all the way up through to your toe off. They do have some exposed areas where you can see the carbon fiber plate. Now, that did become a bit of an issue at times. I was cornering, and on that corner, there's a bunch of gravel that was there, and I picked up a pretty good stone that stuck right in that cutout there. And it marked up the fly plate that they call it, just a little bit. I don't think it damaged the plate at all to the point where it impacted the performance, but cosmetically you can see that it's scratched up pretty good there. But the rubber on the outsole material is held up really well. Again, some compression marks, some signs of wear, but those are mainly cosmetic. I haven't noticed that the ride of the midsole has degraded at all over time. And I've run, as I mentioned, some of my fastest times in these shoes. Now, the upper is made up of Atom Knit 2.0. It's highly breathable. It's translucent. You can see right through it. And I really appreciated having that extra bit of airflow, especially on those hot days. And some of the days that I was out working out in these, it was in the 90s, very humid. So being able to feel that breeze flowing through my shoes felt really terrific, and it just made it a little more comfortable. Now, the lengthwise was perfect for me. I didn't have any issues with the length, and even in the toe box, the width, I don't have a particularly wide foot or a narrow foot. I'd say it's just pretty average, and I had plenty of room to be able to splay my toes. I never felt like they were cramped at all, and I was able to get locked in and secure across the midfoot section using the newly designed eyelet chain or lace enclosure system that they have here. It wasn't without its problems, but we'll talk about that here in just a second. And in terms of durability, that Atom Knit 2.0 is holding up really well. I can't see really any issues durability-wise. It's holding up, like I said, really well. No signs of wear at all, no tears, no rips, anything along those lines. Now, the tongue they did add some padding over the previous version of the shoe to the tongue. I really appreciated that. Now, while I did feel some pressure from the laces, because I did have to snug them up pretty tight, I never felt like they were so uncomfortable that I wouldn't want to run in them. So I think they did a good job with adding that little extra padding across that integrated tongue that they have. I did have some bunching up here right at the start of this lace enclosure system, but it didn't cause any issues. I didn't have any hot spots there as a result of that bunching. It was just me having to really cinch the laces down to be able to get locked in and secure. And I know it's particularly hard, aggressive workouts where I was going downhill a lot. I didn't have my foot sliding forward like I do in the original version of the shoe that caused me some blistering in my toenail. So that was really appreciated. So a good update for me in the second version of the shoe, because that issue alone has kept me out of the original version more than I would like. So I'm going to put more time in them. I think around 60 miles in those at this point. I just need to learn to get locked in a little better in that version of the shoe, but I found it to be much easier to get locked in here so that my foot wasn't sliding forward and getting my toenail banged up as a result of that movement. Now, around the lace enclosure system, as I mentioned, while it's a much improved system, in my opinion, over the previous version, because they added this, it's a little bit different. So they have a bit of a lace that kind of runs along the lace enclosure system that your laces then run through. So when you cinch it up, it really kind of gathers that material and really locks you in. But it isn't without some issues. And right up at the top of that lace enclosure system, at that very last loop or lace hole there, is some extra material. And when I put these on, now initially they were very comfortable, but the second time I put them on, I noticed that felt like it was digging in a bit on both of my feet. And I kind of went through that phase. So there was a bit of a love-hate-love relationship with the upper because of that. And, the first run, typically, if I hadn't run on these in a couple of days, was fine. The second time, if I wanted to wear these the very next day, I could feel that material digging into the side of my foot, and it was really uncomfortable. And it made it so I couldn't run on these 2 days in a row. And that persisted for probably the first 50, 60 miles or so. But then after that, the material seemed to loosen up a little, maybe soften, and I wasn't feeling those pain points any longer. And then the other pressure point or pain point for me actually was in that heel pod. Now Nike describes it as, being able to lock your heel in place. And while that may be true, it's pretty aggressive in terms of the curvature of that heel pod that your heel is setting in. And where that pod ends and the material or the cushioning begins, there's a bit of a space there. And right at that apex of that curvature was digging into my Achilles, and it's been causing me a little bit of pain to run in. And I tried all kinds of things to be able to reduce that because my heel isn't fitted in that perfectly. So I got that pain point or that pressure point right on my Achilles, right at the top of that heel pod. And I tried, using athletic tape running along my Achilles. I tried some blister pads, things of that nature, tried to reduce that. Eventually, I did find something that is working for me. It's just called Body Glide. So I just lathered up both of my Achilles, my heel there in that area, and it seemed to do the trick. So, it's taken me a while, but now I can run comfortably in the upper of these. But again, it was a bit of a love-hate-love relationship. In the beginning, loved it, didn't seem to have any issues. But when I started trying to run in these 2 days in a row, that's when I started having some problems there. Now, last week, I'm training for the Detroit Marathon, so I'm putting these through all kinds of workouts, and I had 5 different workouts last week, including recovery run, easy run, speed days, the long run, all of those things, the whole gambit. And I ran in the AlphaFly Next Percent 2s for every single workout. So there was days when I ran in them 3 times in a row, so and didn't have any kinds of issues. And with being in the middle of this training block, I was at the point where I run a half marathon time trial, and I ran that in the AlphaFly Next Percent 2s on Saturday, and I did set a PR wearing these shoes, and they were comfortable the whole way around. So it took me a little while to get there, but I think I'm finally there in terms of the comfort of the upper on the AlphaFly Next Percent 2. Overall, these have held up really well over the last 100 miles, and I know I've got a lot more miles I can put in them because I haven't noticed any kind of loss in energy return as I strike the ground and move through my gait. There are some signs of wear. Now, you can see that in the ZoomX foam especially, where they got some compression marks and where the color has actually wore away. They're in that groove of the heel. But I think that's primarily cosmetic. It hasn't affected the performance of the shoe at all. And with the upper, it's been a bit of a love-hate-love relationship just because I did have some pressure points initially, but eventually those seem to have worked themselves out. So now it's a very comfortable shoe for me to run in, and I wouldn't have any issues picking these up on marathon day. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I enjoyed making it for you. As always, run tall, run strong, be kind to one another. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on Run Tall with Tim.
You got